Okay, good morning. Welcome to our presentation. Today's topic is developing students' intercultural communicative competence in China. My name is Dong Yan, and this is our main content. I will do the introduction part. So to begin with, I would like to introduce a little bit background information of our research. Our research is put in China context. And in China in recent years, English language teaching education has experienced a great reform. So for the language teaching approach, intercultural communicative language teaching has recently been introduced to China by a number of scholars in response to the limitations of communicative language teaching. So intercultural communicative language teaching emphasizes that language is not taught merely for transfer of information, but for the assertion, negotiation, construction, and maintenance of individual and group identities. Thus, for the ultimate goal of foreign language education has shifted from developing students' communicative competence to intercultural communicative competence. So the question here is how to cultivate students' intercultural communicative competence. A very important approach we would like to explore in our research is to integrate the intercultural awareness into our ELT classroom. So for the intercultural awareness builds on the cultural awareness, which focuses on the national cultures. It has been used by a number of writers in relation to the language teaching. The best known formulation is from Brahms' critical cultural awareness, which is the core of intercultural communicative competence. So, however, intercultural awareness is a more dynamic and flexible relationships between cultures and the languages. It has moved away from cross-cultural comparisons. It emphasizes the flexible and context-specific nature of the knowledge, skills, and attitudes that we need. So for the implementation of intercultural awareness in ELT classroom, in a non-eccentric manner, we will investigate the two teaching practices. The first one is to explore the teaching materials with the focus of the critically evaluated our teaching textbook is from the headway. The second one is from the perspective of the media. We are going to talk about how to use the films or the TV series. So in the whole setting, our participants are Chinese university students with diverse English levels. And the textbook they use has also experienced a great reform. The new textbooks require the teachers to switch from teaching grammar and translation to creating the learning content. And from the English learning teaching, has also shifted from a linguistic perspective to both linguistic and social linguistic perspectives. So here we could see the new English textbooks attempted to turn teachers from teaching the textbook mechanically to assisting students in learning the textbook flexibly and actively. So the next part, our partners will give us a further explanation of how to use the foreign films of TV series and the use of the textbooks. So welcome them.
Okay, I'm Wei Zhang, and here I will critically evaluate the headway to investigate the potential that is for its potential for developing the students' intercultural awareness and the development of their intercultural competence, communicative competence. But first, I will introduce some vital role of the textbooks in developing SCC. While the choice of teaching material is especially important when learners make their first steps in learning and the language and get acquainted with other cultures. Well, fortunately, in China, Chinese students and teachers nowadays have access to various textbooks and materials, which focus on the cultural issues. And the textbooks is the essential part supported in the English teaching classroom, which makes it very important for forming the learners' attitudes towards the language and both the content and cultures. And the textbooks, including the context, text, and language learning activities, may encourage or hinder the development of learners' ICC. Well, here I will give some basic information about the headway. Well, the textbook is designed for the adult learners, and it is not designed for a particular national group, so which means it might suitable for the different backgrounds. And nowadays it is widely used in China, especially for the institutions. Well, there are three aspects for consideration to investigate whether this textbook can develop or to hinder the students' ICC. Now, first part is the cultural differences. The author have actually given some examples of the writing different types of letters, well, both informal and formal. Obviously, they have taken it for granted that the letter writing style as a skill may be variable from the culture to the culture. And here is an example from the textbook. Apart from the different types of the letters or the writing styles, there are some other examples like ordering meals in a cafe or the restaurant or the telephoning. Well, these situations that, especially for Chinese learners, that they might quite familiar with in their real experience in their own country. And the second part is represent the real culture. On the one hand, there is an attempt that the authors introduces characters representing different backgrounds, like the royal family or the middle class people, and something like that. But however, on the other hand, there are hardly any people from the poor background or something like that. Well, in other words, hardly doesn't represent the real culture, or by which I mean the characters that it presented are not credible enough. And the next factor is that the stereotypes. On the one hand, it might break down some certain stereotypes, like there is an example from the textbook. It's the reading text that tries to provide the new look at the weather in the courtroom. While on the other hand, it might reduce stereotypes or even create some new stereotypes or to reinforce the established stereotypes. For example, there are some examples. While this process is quite subtle and hardly noticeable for the learners. Well, based on the critical evaluation of the textbook headway, here are some suggestions for teachers to consideration for their choosing or designing the textbook for learners. And the first one is the text materials, visuals, and language learnings. Tasks should be representative of the cultural differences both in native countries and the lingual focus settings. And the second one is that learning activities should reflect the actual multicultural composition of countries where English is the native language. And the third one is about the textbook should be relaxing, as I mentioned about. And the fourth one is that textbook materials and learning tasks should encourage cooperation between students' own country and the cultural manifestations they encounter in the process of learning English. And the next one is the textbook should encourage learners to reflect on stereotypes, both in their own countries and in the textbooks. Okay.
Okay, we've